What's going on, Freedom Fit family? It's Shad here with another video. And before I get into the video, I'm going to ask you to like, comment, and share if this video adds value to you. But what we're going to do is we're going to break down and react to a recent interview that Kirk Franklin had with Shannon Sharp on his podcast. And there's a lot of pivotal topics to cover, a lot of elements of that conversation so that we can bring some clarity to biblical truth and see the contrast between some, let's say, mainstream Christianity views versus what the Bible says. And none of this is to put anybody down. None of this is to say I'm holier than thou or better than anyone, but just a desire to teach so that we can have discernment. No matter who we come across that waves the Christian flag, we'll be able to either correct our brother or sister or just have that discernment for ourselves to know what's going on. But without further ado, let's get into the video.
What are your thoughts on 50-50 relationships?
What does that mean? 50-50 relationships.
You pay half, I pay half.
I'm old school.
See, that's me.
I'm old school. I'm gonna pay for everything.
Oh. But hold on, if you pay for everything, are you expecting old school values in a new school woman? Because that's not how they're wired.
But they can be. I think that every woman would be grateful for a man to step up and take leadership in the right way. The problem is the lack of love, compassion, and the lack of still having a voice in your significant other is the thing that we as men fail at. It's because there is this authoritarian mindset that we also have that if I'm contributing and leading everything, that I contribute and lead everything.
Right.
But there still should be an equal voice and an opinion and view that we must consider, that we must acquiesce to at times, because there's a wisdom and a knowledge that a woman brings to the table that we benefit from. Okay. And so, but a lot of that is our own insecurities, right. A lot of the ways that we were raised.
You see, so right there is where we have an issue, right? So I'm going to say this. He's absolutely right. There is a lot of value that a woman brings to the table. Even a Proverbs 31 woman, it says that wisdom is on the tip of her tongue, right? And when we think of a helpmeet, which is what the Bible describes a woman as and is actually why she was designed. It says God saw that Adam was alone and it wasn't good for man to be alone. So I'm going to make him a helpmeet, not a helpmate. A helpmeet is something that is fit and suitable. So I'm going to bring him a help that's fit and suitable for him. Right. And in Genesis, it also says that the man will rule over his wife. Right. So that could be misunderstood at times where that seems like, oh, he's going to be a tyrant. But that doesn't mean that he's necessarily going to be a tyrant or that he should be. But what it is he is the lead. He is the one that has the plan, that gives the structure and gives the order. And I know that there is different situations out there where maybe a man hasn't stepped up to the plate in a woman's life and she's been kind of forced or pushed into that independent woman role. But essentially, once we know better, we want to do better. You might be in that situation now, but it's like, okay, let me learn my biblical role as a woman. Let me learn my biblical role as a man. And in Ecclesiasticus, I want to say it's 25:26, which is in the Apocrypha, which are the lost books of the Bible. It says that a wicked man is given to a wicked woman, and a righteous woman is given to a man who fears the Lord. So essentially, we attract who we are. So if you are seeking to be a biblical woman, which would be in a submissive role and know that the man is the head. Why? Because man was created in the image of God. Woman was created in the image of man. So when you're doing this, you're not doing it to per se please the man. Yes, you want to honor your husband, but essentially it's what is of a great price in God's eyes for a woman to be of a meek and quiet spirit and to follow the lead of her husband. Why? Because it goes God, Christ, man, woman. So God is pouring into that man of God. And I'm going to emphasize a man of God. He's pouring into a man of God, and he has a purpose and a vision that he wants that man to accomplish. And if there's combativeness and there's continuous arguing, the purpose can be fulfilled, right? And it says that a man is better off sleeping on a rooftop opposed to being in the house with a quarrelsome wife, right? And society has conditioned us to believe that what I'm saying is sacrilegious because they tell you, forget your purpose, forget producing family, forget building a nation or a strong unit that can honor God, righteous seed, right? They tell you to focus on your career instead. And maybe when you're 35, think about having a child, and it may be too late, or you might not be able to not be able to multiply as much as you would have been able to, which it says a woman even gains her salvation through childbearing as long as that family continues in Christ, right? So Satan is depriving you of some of your greatest glory. And that's an honor to be able to be over the household, right? To rear children, to pour into those spirits, opposed to having them in the traditional school system and they're getting taught about all these agendas. They're learning how to use drugs. They're doing things after school, so on and so forth, right? They're being programmed. But regardless, the man is to be in that leadership role. And look at your life. Just think back. Is there ever a 50-50 situation? There's no relationship that's 50-50. Usually someone has the leverage. Usually someone is calling more of the shots. Usually someone is having more of their way. And what God says is that it's supposed to be a man, not because he just has a different genital area than you and that makes him a man. It's because a man that's following God is being led by the Most High God, and we're here to fulfill purpose. That's what this is all about. It was a commandment for us to be fruitful and multiply, right? And I'm going to say that with discretion because I know there's some women who can't multiply, who are not able to bear children, and maybe some men. But, all things considered, if you can, that's what we should be focused on. And at the end of the day, the man is the head. The man is the leader. We can't have traditional values and desires on one side, but then we're living modern on another side. You can't want him to be a man if someone breaks in the house and protect you, or you're walking down the street and someone tries to run up on you. But at the same time, I want to have an equal voice. He has to be willing to die for you, but you have to listen to him. And that's just how it goes. Now let's skip through to another part of the video, and I'm going to leave the link to the whole video in the description so that y'all could watch it. And see some of the areas that I won't review just because it's going to be kind of long if I do that. But another thing that Kirk Franklin has said was that, it's okay he said that the best thing for a man and woman to do is be friends, make her laugh. That's why an ugly guy can be seen with an attractive woman. This was his words. And that the key to everything is just making her laugh. So basically, you're supposed to just be a joke. And I'm going to tell you now, if you only make a woman laugh, she's going to run over you. There's nothing wrong with having a sense of humor. There's nothing wrong with building with your woman and y'all having a great time. But we have to understand, what is the purpose of this union? What are we doing here? What's the outlook? What's our plans together, right? And yes, we can have a great time in the process. But if you just go there saying, listen, you do whatever you want. He said, take her wherever she wants to go. Make her laugh. Tell her on your first date, hey, you want a homie? You want someone to be cool with you? Again, there's nothing wrong with the relationship piece or the connecting, building rapport piece of a union. But essentially, you need to be a man first. And she should be a woman first, a biblical man and a biblical woman, because this honors God. That's what we have on our mind first. God tells us to order it this way because that's his design order and he's the all-knowing. So we honor that. And in the process, let's have a great time. I'm not against that, but we got to have first things first. But let's get into the next clip.
So do you go on a date to get married, or what do you, because
I don't believe in that as much as I know that a lot of Christians push that narrative. I don't believe that marriage has to be the sum total of a person's existence. I don't believe that.
That seems to be the overwhelming thing now.
And I think it's unfortunate. It's because, first of all, about sheer numbers. There's going to be many, many beautiful women that will never get married just on the sheer numbers. There's more women than men.
Right.
So if we make humans feel like that your sum total of purpose and existence is in the space of a marriage, then we fail all of the beautiful people that will be single, that are single,
right,
that God can't use them, that there's no purpose for their life, and that there's no plan, and that they can't live fulfilled lives.
Right.
So you can be able to date and still put parameters on if you want to be active or not, how much you want to give of yourself, so you can be able to still enjoy beautiful relationships. And it doesn't mean that you got to be walking out of your mind, marriage. Right. It's because not getting married is not a sin.
Oh, okay.
It ain't a sin.
Right.
And so we got to stop making everything black and white. Marriage is not on the same level as salvation. It ain't. And so you got to be able to have friends with people, and you can be able to establish the boundaries of what the friendship needs to look like, how far it needs to go before it crosses over. And if something beautiful turns out of that turns into a marriage, it's a beautiful thing.
Right.
Marriage can be a beautiful thing, but it's not the sum total of a person's existence.
You know, okay, so I get what he's saying there, and it's true. You don't have to. Marriage is not on the same level of salvation. You cannot be married and still be saved. Even Paul says that he would wish that people continue like him, right, and not be married, because a person who's married starts to focus on what their significant other likes and wants, opposed to what God wants, right? So when you're single, you tend to focus on God more, because you have a solitary focus. So, okay. But with that being said, this is the tricky part. So he's saying we could be friends and put parameters and decide how far we want it to go or not. Here's the news flash. Sex is marriage. If you look in the Bible, you're not going to find these ceremonial things. You're not going to find a man getting on one knee, giving a gold ring, and going on a honeymoon. All that stuff is the government being a third party in your marriage. That's what that's all about. So if you guys decide to separate, you can't just separate, because the government has something to say about that. And they pretty much just have their hands all in your business, and they want to regulate something that is a natural order, something that's natural from God, right? So man and woman was not designed to be friends. We know in Genesis it says a woman was designed to be a man's helpmeet. It never said to be her best friend. And hear what I'm saying with discretion. It's not like you could never have someone who was a man that didn't get intimate with you and, was a mentor or your pastor or whatever the case may be. But by and large, we're hanging out all the time. We're being friends. We're coming over to each other's house. We're going on this type of date. Eventually, if we're being real, something's going to happen when it's getting intimate. So this is where we're getting dicey. You can't say on one end the sum total is not marriage, but you guys can hang out and be friends and just see where it goes, in a sense. Because the truth is, as adults, eventually it's going to get somewhere. Now, when you enter into a woman, that is the marriage. That is two becoming one flesh. And Eve was actually born as a wife. See, when we have intercourse, that is us reenacting the actual creation of man and woman, right? But Eve was already born as one flesh with Adam. That's why he said, this is flesh of my flesh and bone of my bone, right? So when we get married, we reenact that. And he said, because of this, a man will leave his mother and father and cleave unto his wife. So it's not the sum total. If you're not married, it's okay. But I think a woman should be desiring to be one with someone, not in a sense where your life, like you just are craving this and nothing else matters to you and you feel unfulfilled if you don't have a husband right away. Serve God first and he will bring you what you need in your life. A righteous woman will be brought to a righteous man. But at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with wanting to fulfill part of your purpose, right? Keeping God first and then becoming one. And if we just feel like, oh, we could just hang out and be friends and see where it goes, that's promoting hookup culture. That's promoting whoredom, essentially, right? So we can't have it both ways. If you have sex with someone, that is marriage, and then there's responsibility from that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Paul said it's better to get married than to sit there and burn. So if we're going to consummate and come together, now we need to understand there is a responsibility, and that relationship should glorify God, not serial monogamy where you're hooking up with this person, hooking up with that person. No, if you come together, that's what it is. And then he also mentioned, well, by the sheer numbers, every woman can get married. Well, I'm going to pose the question. Does the Bible say a man can only have one wife? I'm just going to ask that, and I'm going to have you do your research. Maybe we'll do another topic on that at a later date, right? But I want you to look into that. And of course, we're not talking about adultery. We're not talking about whoremongering. We're not talking about any of those things. But I'm just going to pose that question. Why can men reproduce until the day they die? And God said, be fruitful and multiply. But a woman has but a certain amount of time in most situations. I'm just going to ask that question. I want you to do your own research. Comment what you think below. But those are some of the things that I wanted to cover today as far as this video is concerned. Anything that I missed, you can look in the description and you'll find the video itself, and you can, add something in the comments that I may have missed, or you'll see certain parts that I elaborated on that I didn't play in the video covered there. But Again, I appreciate every single one of you. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and turn your post notifications on so you know when I post. But I'm always wishing you all the best. God bless. I'll talk to y'all next time. Freedom and truth.